Hi, this is Sarah from Lasers and More, and today we're going to talk about how to make a children's name puzzle. Now, before you get started on anything for a child, you should visit cpsc.gov, again, cpsc.gov, and they will have a whole bunch of information about how to make sure that your products are safe for children. This is especially important if you're going to be selling to the public with the intent of the product going to the child. But it's also good to understand what the requirements are, even if you're just making a gift for someone in your neighborhood or a niece or nephew or your own child. So, assuming you have gone and done your homework and understand what the requirements and safety regulations are, let's go ahead and start making that sign. So, we'll start out in Silhouette Studio by selecting the text icon from the left hand bar and then selecting the text icon for the text style panel from the right hand bar. And I'm going to pick a font that most people have on their computers automatically installed, and it's Arial. Now, Arial is a sans serif font. Serifs are the little things that hang down or are ornaments on the end of letters. So, for instance, Times is a serif font and Arial is a sans serif font. Doesn't have the little things that hang down on the T and the little cross at the bottom of the T. And I am going to adjust the name that I create in a little bit so that it has those ornaments on the I, but other than that, Arial is exactly what I'm looking for. So I mouse anywhere in the canvas and start typing the name that I want to use. I think the name signs look best when they are in all capitals, but you can do whatever works for you. You need to click so that you have the green box and select everything inside of that box, the whole name. And I'm going to increase the character spacing. And I'm increasing the character spacing for two reasons. One, because I want the beams on the top and the bottom of the I, and also because I'm going to be doing an outset so that the letters are a bit thicker and chunkier and a little bit more of a fun child looking item. So that looks like an okay amount of spacing to me. I'm going to zoom in on the I using the drag over a shape so that you can get a better view. I'd like to be zoomed in a little bit more. And that looks good. Now I'm going to go over to the drawing tools and select the rectangle. And I'm going to create a cross beam for the eye. That looks wide enough. It doesn't need to be centered. We will center it. And I'm going to do Control C or Command C and Control V or Command V to make a copy and a paste. And now I'm going to bring the bottom one down. I'm going to select the top and the bottom, and I'm going to align them to each other. I cannot align them to the eye quite yet because the eye is part of the Nicholas word group. In order to make it so that I can work with the eye, I need to release that word group. So I will go up to Object and Convert to Path. And now it's a path, but it's all still grouped. And so then I need to go to Ungroup Selected Shapes. Now the eye is ungrouped from everything else, and I can take that top part of the eye and the beam, and I can tell it to align to the top. Now, if for align top, it will look for whatever is the highest point to align to. And so because the crossbeam is below the eye, it's not going to adjust where the eye is. And that's exactly what I want. And then for the bottom one, I want to align to the bottom. And again, because the eye is above the lowest point, when I tell it to align bottom, it will go to the lowest point, like that. Now, if I had the bottom of the eye lower than the eye itself and told it to align bottom, it's going to just move the center part. And now the eye has lost the top part. And so that's not what we want. And that's why I was working with the eye already up above that point. Now, I haven't found the best way of making it so that things align center. So we're going to align the center of the eye. It's going to move the bar over to the right, and we'll just have to move the eye manually over after we've welded it together. So align center. There it is. And now I'm going to weld it all together. I'm going to move it over so that it is centered between the O and the N, and I'm going to do that by selecting the N and the O and the I and going to the alignment tool and doing the space horizontal, and it just makes it so that everything is distributed with an even size spacing. Now let's zoom out a little bit and see what that looks like. I think that looks good. So the next step is to create that offset. So on your left toolbar, create the offset using the Open the Offset panel. Select Offset, and it automatically creates an offset for you. I think that offset is a little bit too big. Things like the C are closed and the S are closed, so those letters no longer have a fully defined shape, and I want a defined shape. So I'm going to back it off, and I'm just going to manually put in 0.075 and see what that looks like. And that's a lot closer. The S is still a little bit too closed for me, so I'm going to back it off a little bit more until I have a actual defined shape. And that looks good to me. I'm happy with that. You can offset more or less depending on the look you are going for. And you can have it set as corner. It's going to make it so that the letters look more rectangular at the bottom. I like the softer, rounder corners for kids' toys. I feel like it's a little bit safer and just a little bit more of a fun shape. But this is what the angular corners look like as compared to rounded corners. Once you're happy with your offsets, click Apply, and then you can move them off of the original design. I'm going to use the up arrow until I have them high enough that I know what I'm selecting, and it's the offset one. Okay, I'm going to go and move the old Nicholas off the screen just in case we want to do something with it later, but I don't think we will. Now this is not distributed very evenly, and I would like it to be distributed a little bit more evenly. So I'm going to select all of the letters, and I'm going to go to that space horizontal. And now all of the letters have the same distance in between each of them, and that looks a lot better. It would have looked fine had I not done the offset, and everything would have been equal, but that offset really changed things up. Now I'm going to do one more thing here. I've had experience with the letter N on these kids' puzzles, and I know that the symmetry can cause a little bit of problem. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to adjust it just a little bit so that the N is a different enough shape on this corner than this corner, so that when the child tries to put it in, it doesn't get wedged from this being just a tiny bit different. It's a big enough difference that the child won't be able to put the letter in upside down. And that's just something that I know from experience with my child playing with these puzzles. And to me, that looks really good. So I am going to now go back to the drawing tools and get the rounded rectangle. And I'm going to draw the rounded rectangle around the name. And I just realized I'm going to want to align to the whole name, so I'll select everything. And before I do that, there's one more thing I need to do. On the O and the A, I need to release those compound paths because I need to change the inside to a different color, because when I use these on my Glowforge, I am going to engrave inside of those closed letters instead of having it cut those out. I think it looks kind of cute and fun, and it also doesn't leave a blank space. And you can't turn that into a compound path because then it'll change that color again, and you want that alternate color to be there so that you can tell it whether or not you want to engrave or score or cut. To make the O into a group and the A into a group, and looking at the size of this, it's 1.5 inches tall and 7.4 inches wide, and the minimum size that any of these letters really should be tall is 2.25. And I don't want it to be quite as wide as it's going to make it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to bring the letters a bit closer together, and then I'm going to start making this larger, but I'm going to distribute the letters so that there's still a reasonable amount of space. And select all the letters, select the space horizontal, and make sure that there's enough space between each of them that you're not going to have edges that fall apart. I think I need a little bit more space, so I'll move that S out a little bit more and grab everything once more and space horizontal. Now, I accidentally misaligned everything, so I'm going to align all to bottom. And I'm going to start making the letters bigger within my rectangle. And I'm going to select the letters and group them and select my rectangle. And then I'm going to click the center button. What that does is it aligns it so that the word that I just grouped is in the center, dead center, top to bottom, and left to right of the rectangle. So I am now going to make it so that everything is grouped, and then everything is 3 inches tall. And if I want everything to scale together, I have to click this lockbox and then enter my dimensions. So zoom out a little bit. This is 3 inches tall and 14.3 inches wide. This kit has a very long name. And let's make sure that the letters are the right height. So I need to ungroup the selected shape and look at the height, and it's 1.928. So I am going to manually stretch it up to 2.25. And then I am going to again center it. I don't want it to be much longer than this. So that looks good to me. It works. There's enough space between each of these letters that you're not going to end up with the wood falling apart. And the shortest letter is going to be just over 2.25 inches tall, which is a safe zone as far as I can tell. Again, do your own research and make your own judgment call as far as what's safe for children. I don't need this Nicholas that I had created earlier, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. And now I am going to take the outside copy Now I'm going to take the outside rectangle that I had created, and if I want to change the amount of round over, I can do that by adjusting with these little red dots until I'm happy with it. And once I am happy with it, I want to copy and paste it. I'm going to use Command C or Control C, depending on if you're Mac or Windows, and then Control V or Command V to paste it. What that does is it makes the backer board. Now, if you might want to make your backer board out of a different material, go ahead and change the color of that line so that you can ignore it on the first material that you're cutting. File, save to hard drive, and change it to an SVG. And I'm going to name this puzzle Nicholas so I can find it later. And let's go to our Glowforge app. Select Create, Upload from File. Find your file that you just created. Upload it. It's processing. And here it is, ready to be printed. And I am going to move it over so I'm using as much of the material as I can. And make sure that you have the right material. Change those letter holes into engrave. If you want to cut your back out of a different material, don't forget to select ignore here, but I am going to make it all out of this wood material. And so I am ready. Okay, it is a 9-minute print, and you can see that once it focused, you can see that all of the lines are still within the material even after it focused. So I'm going to go ahead and print, and I'll show you how it came out. Now, I am leaving the masking on because I'm giving this to my friend as a gift, and they are going to do the painting and finishing themselves, but you can get the idea of how it's going to look. And here's a picture of another puzzle that I did that is painted and finished, and here's how it came out. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please do hit subscribe. I will be making more, and that way you get notification as soon as one's released. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave those down below in the comments area, and I will be sure to address them. Have a great day. Thanks.